Most listened to show in all of America. Hello, you sick, twisted freak. Welcome to the program. My name is Glenn Beck, and I saw the Barack Obama speech last night, and I'm telling you, blood shot out of my eyes. First of all, may I have an ADD moment here before we get into the meat and potatoes of everything? Is it bothering anybody else about the teleprompter? The teleprompter is really, really, really bothering me. Only because I have never seen, we're looking for a guy who's real, who's himself, who's just like you. Well, I got news for you, gang. I do 3 hours a day without a teleprompter. You know, the president is worried about, one word can, trip him up. Well, you don't think people like me or Rush or Sean are worried about that as well? You don't think people in talk radio know that there are people that have been hired to transcribe every word I say to be able to distort it, to take it out of context, and use it against me?
Their entire form of governing so far has been targeting words taken out of context of Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah. So, it really bothers me, this teleprompter thing. Last night, I said, I was watching it, and in the middle, I said, because I know a little bit about teleprompters, because on television, I do use a teleprompter from time to time.
Sick, twisted freak.
Welcome to the program. Let me go right to Camille. I'm
Hello,
watching
Camille.
his eyes. Did anyone notice that he wasn't looking at the camera? And I said, they put the teleprompter down on the ground. And somebody who was with me said, "What are you talking about?" I said, that teleprompter is not a regular teleprompter because he's not looking at the camera. I believe, and this was, I put it on pause for a second and looked at his eyes. He wasn't even looking at the camera. And I said, I believe this is to combat, and I don't know this part, I don't know if this is to combat the fact that he keeps looking off to the side and never at the camera. You know, when he's giving these speeches lately, have you ever noticed? He never looks at you. He looks to the left, then he looks to the right, then he looks to the left, then he looks to the right. He's never looking at you. That's a problem because he needs to look me in the eye. Well, last night, this was my conjecture that they were trying to overcome that and get him to look right at a camera. Well, there are cameras that are built with the teleprompter on the lens. He didn't use that. We found out after the speech that he used this giant flat-screen television just under the camera. It bothers me that this man doesn't... So far, this man is always on prompter. You want to talk about a Manchurian candidate? That's it. Who's writing every word for this man? Why is it? Can you imagine if I think it was if George W. Bush was always on teleprompter? Can you imagine what people would have said if he was always on teleprompter, never off the cuff? Can you imagine what everybody would have said if the man would have always had a BlackBerry? Oh, no, I need a BlackBerry. I need to have it specially made so they can't target me or anything else. Putting himself in danger because you can triangulate someone's BlackBerry. Spending money so the president could have a specialized BlackBerry with all kinds of security on it. So nobody could tap into it. Nobody could track him. How much money did we spend on the BlackBerry? But can you imagine the conspiracy theories that would have gone around? Who's on the other side of the BlackBerry? Why does he need the BlackBerry with him? When he's looking down at a meeting, who's he reading a message from? Who's really pulling his strings? Who's really doing all of these things? Why can't he ever be off a teleprompter? What does he really believe? Especially with Barack Obama, where when he gets off a teleprompter, he screws it all up. When he gets off a teleprompter, all of a sudden he starts talking about, Karl Marx wasn't that bad. So what's with a little redistribution of wealth? Is it bothering anyone else but me? We have a fraud in office. At least that's the way it feels to me. That this guy, he claims he's just like you and everything else. And I believe he is, except his viewpoints are never clear. He's never really, we don't know who this, listen, why, think back in your head to every president we've ever had. Have you ever heard a president compared to first JFK, then FDR, then Lincoln? Have you ever heard of any president that just went through all of them? I mean, the only thing he hasn't been compared to is, well, Tyler. He hasn't been compared to Taft yet. My theory on that is because we don't know who he is, because he may not know who he is, or he knows who he is, but every time he reveals a little bit of that, nobody wants him to say that. I don't know what the answer is, but we don't know who he really truly is. And that bothers me. Imagine. I mean, have you ever heard any other president do that? They're only comparing him to others because they're trying to say, yeah, well, he's kind of like that guy. Well, no, I don't want to know who he's kind of like. I want to know who he is. How do you get to a man's... I don't know. Just bothers. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. Something wrong. Yeah.
On the teleprompter thing, though, is there some degree of... Because I think it's... I like it, and it's a funny story to me because this guy was sold to us as so much smarter than everyone else.
Yeah.
And, you know... But there's, to some degree, is there a tendency to overreact on that? Because every speech is written for these people.
Look,
they're all quoting words of other people. They're all reading speeches. Now, it's not to the degree of Obama.
I am totally fine with him. Like at the beginning of this speech, this press conference last night, I'm totally fine with him having a teleprompter. I really am. When he has an address to the nation, I have no problem. He's doing the State of the Union. He's doing an Oval Office. He's doing the beginning of a press conference. I have no problem. But I never see this man off of a teleprompter unless he's taking a direct question from the Stars and Stripes. I mean, no offense to the Stars and Stripes. I've gotten several stories from the Stars and Stripes. Nothing wrong with the Stars and Stripes. But can you imagine if George W. Bush avoided taking questions from the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, and the New York Times, and asked questions of a blog and the Stars and Stripes? Hello? At the same time, he's saying how important newspapers are. At the same time, we can't lose this critical link to newspapers. He goes to thepolitico.com. He's proving the opposite point, which he's right on, but he's proving the opposite point. Which is he? Is it the land of new media? Or are newspapers vital to a country's existence? Which one is it? I don't know, because the teleprompter keeps telling him what to say. So, don't get me wrong. I have no problem being on teleprompter. I mean, all of the words that I say on television, all of them, I've written. So, and like last night, the monologue at the beginning, part of it was in teleprompter, part of it wasn't. And I said, you know what? When I got on, I said, you know what? Just cut all that stuff out because I just rather say it off the top of my head. I've written the words. But I want to make sure, because I'm so riddled with ADD, I want to make sure that it's all there. There are other times I just say, turn that thing off. I don't want it. And it's not because I'm worried about anything. I do 3 hours of national broadcast every day without a single teleprompter. So I'm not afraid of it. I just want to make sure it's right. And the president has to make sure it's right. But not in every scenario, not in every case, I swear. Why doesn't he should have like a belt around him with like little bars that come off of his hips with teleprompters so he can just walk around. He can be in the kitchen. Well, I'd like a cheese sandwich, please. And then look to the other teleprompter. And a glass of milk because you're just like the average American.
Actually, there's this device that they just have come up with. The way they have it now is you